Spotlight. Today we have Kenya Alexander Davis. Welcome, Kenya. How you doing?
Hey, I'm so good. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. As I was doing some research for this conversation, I came across where you mentioned that your cannabis journey really began as a mother. Can you kind of share that transition and what led you to become so passionate about this industry?
There's so many kids. I have three kids, and I'll be honest, like before I tried cannabis before I tried to smoke weed, and I just didn't like it. It made me so anxious and it really got me in my head. But that was when it was just me. And when I combined like all of the people living in my head with all of the little people that I had to take care of, it just really wasn't working. So I actually started after I had my third child. She's 3 now. I started actually microdosing shrooms, and then I got a little bit scared because I went into like an internet black hole, and I was still nursing, and I was like, "Oh my God, this kid is gonna be wild. Like she's getting all the shrooms." And so I was like, "Okay, maybe like cannabis will like maybe we'll be a little bit lighter." And so then I started consuming weed. And honestly, it was like, I think that mothers are like parents in general, but really mothers are people who should have access to cannabis and access to that journey because it really helped me in just not overthinking everything. I think that in motherhood, we have like so many things that we're keeping in our mind, and then combine that with like work and like being a wife if you're a wife, or all of the things that society expects us to do. And for me, weed just allowed me to kind of take the pressure off of myself and understand that who I am is exactly who I need to be.
Yeah. And so, speaking of work, you've had a kind of interesting career, starting, I believe, in insurance to accounting, and now in financial systems within cannabis, as well as data. So, what kind of led you to, seek the financial expertise that the cannabis industry needed?
I like to say I'm making all of this up. Like I've just happened to be in a lot of times in the right place at the right time. So I was in insurance, and one day one of the bosses from the accounting team came to me, and she was like, "Hey, like we're looking for someone to join our accounting team. Do you want to join the team?" And I was like, I never thought about it, but I mean, I guess, sure. That wasn't ever one of my goals. And I think the first question on my first day was, so what is the difference between a credit and a debit? And like the whole team looked up and was like, this girl, she doesn't even know what accounting is. And so it was a really fast journey because the company was going public and they were going through an internal audit. I honestly messed up so much stuff. I kept messing up because they had no SOPs documented, and they would just try to tell me how to do stuff. But they've been doing it for years, and they didn't know like all of the little I guess their minds just like disregarded all of the little pieces that go into that. And so kept messing stuff up, and I wouldn't find out until the end of the month. So I just started writing everything down because I don't like to mess up. I'm really a perfectionist. I like being good at my job. That's like something I really appreciate. And so then I stopped working there when I had my daughter. It was just a lot of stress. I was the only person who did my job. And so like there was no such thing as vacation. I started my bookkeeping firm with some of the franchise agents from the insurance company that I work. And Andrew Husinker from Dope CFO, he like cold DM'd me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, have you ever thought of like accounting in the cannabis industry? And being in Texas, that was never a thought that came to mind. Like it never even registered to me that in like legal cannabis industries that they would need accountants. And
Hmm.
I like immediately jumped at that opportunity. I was like, oh my God, that's a thing. Like that sounds really fun. And so I started just like going to events and joining groups and learning all that I could about the cannabis industry, and realizing like how much work it takes to do accounting in the industry in addition to everything else that takes all the work in this industry. And it's been fun.
Yeah. And so you launched Green to Green Solutions
Hmm.
as a fractional CFO. I believe that shut down Giselle back in September. And yeah, did you shut down or did you just sell?
Shut down. I still have a couple of clients that like have become like family members that I just can't get rid of. Like I'm just invested in their businesses,
Yeah.
but it's hard work. And like
Hmm.
I think I started like when I started my journey, started my business, I had this idea of what it would be, how it would give me income and more time with my family, but like that's not cannabis accounting at all. Like that's not anything really in the cannabis industry, but especially accounting. And so when I thought about the trajectory of my business, it felt like I was now having to figure out how to spend less time with my kids and get them into activities so that I could spend more time on work. And I was like, I woke up one day, I was like, this is not what we wanted to do. This is not what we planned to do. So like, let's recalibrate. It was like a really
Hmm.
quick decision. And my husband was like, what? What do you mean you're shutting down the business after we've done all of this? I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do this anymore. This is not going to be it. There are so many other opportunities in the industry that just like are more aligned with what I want to do. So it's been interesting, like with the shutdown, because I built my brand in the industry as so I still get leads for like accounting stuff, like still people reaching out to me. So it's been cool, but like also I'm like, damn, I should have kept it. Like now these people are coming.
Yeah. Is your husband in the cannabis industry as well, or he's outside of
No,
it?
he's outside of the industry. He actually works for the same insurance company that I started at. That's actually how we met.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you shut down in September. When did you decide to launch Stashback data? And then, how is your approach to consumer insights different? What gap did you see?
So I actually, in the midst of shutting down Green to Green Solutions, I got the idea for Stashback Data and I reached out. It's different a lot because I have partners in this, right? It's not just me as a solopreneur. I'm able to focus on my role, which is like business development and talking to people about the business. But my partner, Ryan, he actually has a background in market research and he does a lot of work with politicians and polling type of stuff, but also like insights and just that's his world. So it's nice because I can focus on the thing that I'm good at. But I was really passionate about the fact, like going into all of these meetings, I go into a lot of meetings. My favorite thing to do is learn about all of the different things that people are doing in the industry. And in that journey, like being a semi new consumer, like having only consumed for 3 years, I realized how much I don't know and how many questions I don't even know to ask. And I also realized that no one's asking me any questions about my experience and about what I'm looking for. So I wanted to be like, wanted to bridge the gap between the industry and the consumer, like because it feels like the industry is constantly talking to people, constantly talking to consumers, but like no one is asking consumers for their opinions and for their insights. And so I kind of wanted to be that space.
That's a really interesting topic because I personally am not a smoker. Every so often with friends, I will, take a puff or two, but primarily for myself, I don't smoke. It's not that I don't enjoy that high or I don't enjoy those products. It's just I don't enjoy the physical act of smoking,
Hmm.
anything at all. So, my journey into cannabis is mostly edibles, and then when drinks came around, it's like this is it. One, because it's faster acting than edibles, and then two, I love beverages of all kinds. But the other thing is that the industry has skewed so deeply into either the highest milligrams possible in the edibles or the highest percentage THC possible, and not like a well balanced product necessary all the time. There are obviously are many brands that do lower dose and things like that, but generally speaking, from a dispensary, you're just going to find a lot of high percentage stuff. But so it's really interesting that you're focusing on what consumers want, and not saying that I'm the average consumer because I'm probably not, but it's also a conversation I have all the time with people around beverages is that they're like, oh, it's so low dose. Like who wants a 2 milligram drink? I'm like, I do because
Me, right?
I want to have 5 of them, and I also don't. And this is with anything, I don't enjoy the full effects of anything, meaning that I want that stuff spread out. I don't want
Hmm.
to, I never enjoyed being drunk. And so I want to be able to spread the effects out over a long period of time. So microdosing is very useful for me. So is that something that you've noticed at all with the consumer data?
I have, and that's been my experience too, right? I remember when I first started consuming, it would take me like a week to smoke a joint, right? Like I would like light it up and then I would relight it. It would taste nasty and it was all of these things. And so, um, drinks were particularly interested in me for me because like I said, I'm in Texas, right? The whole idea, right? I know you can get THCA flower at smoke shops and all of the things, but I've been buying like on the black market, right? And the whole like it stresses me out, like the whole idea of like trying to buy weed like as a mom, as a woman, as all of these things. It's just hard. So when drinks started popping up in Total Wine, I was like, absolutely, like let's get into this. It's much easier. I don't have to go outside and not be around my kids. It's not as much work, right? I can just pop them in the fridge, pop it out, have a drink sitting next to me, have a tea, have whatever it is. It's just so much easier. And I found that like in my research, a lot of women feel that way too. Like a lot of like mothers have felt that way as well. And so to me, drinks are just so approachable for the average consumer, for someone who is just getting into consumption, for someone who just doesn't want to smoke weed. Like some people just don't want to smoke weed. It's just not their style. And so I love the whole idea. I love the innovation behind cannabis beverages. And most of all, I love how accessible these things are for people.
Yeah. So, how is Stashback data, having those conversations and approaching that and helping brands?
So we do it in a really cool way. Use a technology that it's like most industries, like focus groups are a lot of times in person and they're kind of stuffy and just, you're coming to do a focus group. We do it a different style where we actually curate a box that we send to our participants, and it only has like one drink. It doesn't have a bunch of products. So whatever brand we're working with, it'll be that drink, but it'll have other things like a cup or some kind of self-care thing. And when we invite them to the experience, we unbox together in a virtual room. The cool thing about the virtual room is that it's almost like an office, like a remote office where you move your avatar around and you can actually interact with different people. Our participants can come in and they can talk to each other and really foster, like instead of being stuffy, like it just brings the conversation down to where we're all just talking as people. And so we unbox and we analyze. We really only focus on a couple of things, because I feel like a lot of the research is getting way ahead of itself in terms of what consumers what feedback they're able to give because it's still such a new category. So we focus on can design, how the design of the can makes people feel, would they buy it, would they pick it up off of the shelves, what is their insight about when they look at the can, what information
Hmm.
they get, how it looks, all of those things. And then we do taste. How do you taste? How does it taste? We also like one of the things we do is we don't drink straight from the can because some of these brands have a visual element with it. It's cool to me to see like the bubbles, to see the color if they put a color in there, to see like kind of what you're gonna get before you taste it. So it's a visual experience, kind of like wine tasting in a way. But the taste is really where we're focusing at. Because the effects can hit people so different, we decided to just wait on that until we get more data on like just just the taste. Like what do people actually want to taste? And then we'll get into the effects later.
So is it like a comprehensive like scoring system, or is it like with wine tasting, it's usually like a 100-point scale, I believe. Is it something like that you guys do, or is it just like give it a very good, good, okay,
It's not even a
so
scale. It's tell us what you think. Tell us what you
okay.
think about it. We don't really want to direct our participants in
Mm-hmm.
how they feel. So we ask very open-ended questions. And instead of a score system, it's more of a conversation where everyone's just sharing their thoughts and sharing their insights. And what we found is that like when one person starts to share, it really opens up the floor for other people to start to share their opinions as well. Because I feel like cannabis use is still such a taboo topic for many people. So talking about it is hard. So that's kind of where we're trying to break the barrier and make these conversations more of a regular thing. Make it easier to talk about your desires and your thoughts about these things that we're consuming. So there's no scoring system, but we take those insights and then we build a report based on the things that we're recognizing that people are saying. And it gives you actionable items that you can use to kind of guide your brand, whether it's like a small change in the information that you're putting on your can, right? Or a small change in the pictures that you're using on the website or whatever it is. It gives just a little insight to what consumers want and what would make them buy your product.
So, is there a style of beverage that tends to rank higher that people really enjoy over others?
So I think it depends. I think that right now people are still getting introduced into these brands. I think from my perspective, it's still so this is my story. I went to Total Wine one day and I was like, okay, what am I going to get? There was like three options. So I didn't have a lot to choose from. Like, so I was like, okay, I'll just try this one. And the next time I come back, I'll get the next one. Well, the next time I come back, the aisle was exploding with options. Like, I had no idea where to start. And I tried to go like to the Total Wine website to get more information about each of the products. Nothing was listed on the website. So I couldn't, I ended up that day going home with nothing because I was just so overwhelmed by choices. And I think that a lot of people are feeling that way too. So where Stashback really gives you the opportunity is like kind of introducing your brand to some participants without all of the extra noise, right? And so it's not as far as like choosing one or the other. It's really giving people a clean slate to try your beverage, to look at it and really not be distracted by all of the things going on as they would in the store and to really see what resonates with them.
So, based on all the different conversations you've had, different focus groups and everything, what would you say are either number one, the biggest, or maybe the top three biggest opportunities for brands right now?
I think the biggest opportunities to me, from my insights and just kind of talking to different people, is more clarity on flavor, like on the can, like more insights on what that will actually taste like, more insights on the type of drink it is, because there are some cans that don't even tell you if it's gonna be bubbly, if it's gonna be juice, if it's gonna be like that's something good to know. Cause like for me, I don't love bubbles, right? I like a little bit of bubble, but I don't love bubbles. So that's something that I would want to know before I try your brand. And then another thing is choosing the names for the flavors, right? I think that I recently tried a brand myself that was margarita flavored. And when I tasted it, it didn't taste like a margarita, right? And so, like, it's just that clarity in exactly what it, I think, yes, the design of the can is very important and it's important to have like recognizable names like margarita, that could be cool. But when you're doing that, the end product actually has to match because you get consumers' head that it's going to taste like a margarita and it's a very well known taste for a margarita. So when there's that disconnect, um, it diminishes trust a little bit in your brand. And then the last thing, like just as a side note from me, and I don't know if most consumers are looking at this, but I've been looking at testing a lot. So for me, like if a brand is only doing potency testing, that's not a drink that I'm going to try. And honestly, it's not a drink that I feel comfortable working with and giving to participants, because there is that still that I feel a sense of responsibility for the people that we're introducing to these brands and the people whose insights that we're getting, that we're introducing safe products. And so having just the bare minimum potency test to me doesn't communicate that you care about the safety of your product.
Yeah, I agree with that. Last year on Cinco de Mayo, I did very brief little video for my YouTube about, I think I had like five or six different margarita cannabis products or drinks, I should say. And of the five, I enjoyed the taste of all five of them. I thought all five were very tasty, and I enjoyed drinking all five of them. But only one of them tasted like a margarita. All the other
Fair.
ones did not taste like a margarita. And I'm like, just don't call it a margarita. Like, these are
Call it
delicious
something
drinks.
else, right?
Just call it a different name. But yeah, it tasted nothing like a margarita. And I was like, that's frustrating. So I 100% agree with that.
The drink that I tried, I finished it, right? Like it wasn't like it tasted, it was like that. It just, I expected, I was actually very excited because it was interesting, even that it smelled like margarita. You pop the top and you could smell the scent was right. And I was just, I don't drink. I haven't drank in years. It wasn't like a conscious decision. It just like, I just stopped drinking alcohol one day. And so like when I got that margarita, I was so excited because I haven't tasted a margarita in so long. But I know what a margarita tastes like, and it wasn't that. But on the other end of the spectrum, I had one of Mini Grown's drinks, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like I think it's called like Moscow Moose or something like that, and it's supposed to taste like a Moscow Mule. And Moscow Mules were my favorite alcoholic beverage, and it actually does taste like a Moscow Mule. I think it's because the ginger beer's taste is so potent in a Moscow Mule, but it was spot on. So I think that there's a way to do those things, but you have to be really intentional about the taste that you're putting into the drink.
Absolutely. So, what's next for Stashback Data? And then, lastly, how can my subscribers and everyone connect with you and support the mission?
We're still just looking for more people, more brands that want to get those consumer insights that are really invested in what people are saying about their brands. And it's really cool to me because there's so many entry points that you can get those consumer insights. You can do it as you're in product development. You can do it after you've already gone to market. You can do it when you're launching a new flavor or something. And so there's a lot of opportunity to get the consumer feedback. And I think that more people should be having those conversations. So if there are any brands that are wanting to have someone do that for them, have an unbiased researcher come in and get some of that qualitative data for you, reach out. We are looking for people to work with. We love what we do. We're good at what we do. I'm really looking forward to expanding in the new year.
So, I mean, I'll be sure to include the links in the article as well in the newsletter. So, people will be able to check it out there. Well, thank you very much, Kenya. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. And until next time, guys, cheers.